yeah. NBA STRAYA, how are you going? How you going? I hope you're right. You should be. Why is that, Jim? Well, it's Friday. TGIF, am I right? I'd hate to be a tin in about 45 minutes. I'll tell you that much. It is Friday, November 29, and there is no basketball. But I'm your host, James Clements, and I'm still here. I'm still here, guapo! Love that. You can see my ugly mug on the panel, the official NBL Supercoach show, the AFL Today show, the NFL STRAYA, all the good stuff. Obviously, I'm here in Larry Armour Studios, sweating like a priest near a preschool. It is hot. It's so damn hot. But it's okay. With no games today, we're going to do a fun show where we're going to do the Quartermark Awards, basically the Nerd Awards, because I want to lean into some of the NBA STRAYA Awards next week and just sort of look at some of the top performers, etc. We're going to rank 1 through 30 the most fun teams to watch. Basically, it's like, if I could choose to watch this team over that team, who goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through 30. And then we'll do an NBA Cup check-in on the standings, because that's happening, because all those games are tomorrow and the rest of the weekend preview. And that's it. Then we'll get out of your bloody hair and you can enjoy your weekend. Sound good? Great. All right, let's get into it then. Episode 1165 of NBA STRAYA. Let's go.
This is Josh Giddey.
G'day, this is Andrew Gaze.
This is Jack White.
This is Joe Ingles.
This is Darcy Daniels.
This is Chris Anstey.
This is Matthew Delvedova.
This is Shane Hill.
Hi, this is Ryan Brockhoff.
This is Mitch Creek.
This is Nick Kay.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA STRAYA.
And you're listening to NBA STRAYA. You're listening to NBA STRAYA.
And you're listening to NBA STRAYA.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA STRAYA.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening and watching NBA STRAYA.
This is NBA Australia. Let's do it.
Watch out for the Shaq Attack.
You better. Especially if you're Alonzo Mourning. Why is that, Jim? Well, Shaq sort of had a little thing on his big pod with Shaq. The media played up our rivalry back in the day, but I don't know where I'd be with that. I am Zo33. Check out the latest episode. Basically, talks it out and hangs out with Alonzo Mourning, which is awesome because if you're of my vintage, are you an old bastard, Jim? Yes. Then you remember in the 90s, that was a decade. Many decades ago now. Oh, God. But Alonzo Mourning was an absolute beast on the Hornets and then on the Heat. And then obviously Shaq, Orlando Magic, Baba-doo-ba-dee, and then he ends up on the Lakers. But the cool thing is, like, that draft rivalry, the big man rivalry of the early 90s was basically those two dudes. And then the old guard, you had Patrick Ewing, the Admiral David Robinson, and Hakeem, obviously. And then that sort of went through the 90s. Alonzo was sort of struck by injuries time and time again, never quite lived up to the hype. But weirdly enough, they end up as teammates on the, 06 Heat championship team. But Shaq goes 1 in the 92 draft. Zo goes 2. Amazingly, Christian Laettner went 3. But still, pretty crazy stuff, and it's a really good chat. And I just, look, anytime you want to, like, just feed me some Alonzo Shaq content, I'm all over it. Sign me up. Right, let's get into the rest of the show with the daily. Oh, is that a whip around, Jim? Yes, it is, you see. It's a whip around. It's going to do the thing. There's no news. It's Thanksgiving in America, and I'm giving thanks that there's no news. It did come out, though, that KG's doing his show with Paul Pierce, and he's like, man, shit got swept under the rug. Meant to trade Rudy Gobert, keep Karl Anthony Towns, and I'm like, hang on a second. Say what? And everyone else is like, hang on, say what? And yeah, if you look, and we'll get to this in the rankings, Minnesota would have been far better off trading away Rudy Gobert and keeping Karl Anthony Towns because you're like, screw it. What can Cat do on offense and what can he do on defense? And when you combine those two things, is he a substantially better asset for trade? Yes. But is he also a substantially better asset for your team than Rudy Gobert, who is calling for the ball with a deep post position against smaller dudes and then bloody fumbles the ball away like he's my 5-year-old squid going, Dad, I can't catch. And I'm like, I just keep piffing stuff at him. I'm a good dad. Hashtag Dagstraya. There is like a hashtag Dadstraya like episode lurking in all of these NBA Straya shows where I'm just like the world's worst dad, which checks notes, probably checks out, but still, I think I'm all right. Anyway, KG's like, that got swept under the rug. Shit got swept under the rug. Meant to trade Rudy keep Cat. What are we doing here, man? And I'm like, oh, that's interesting because that's a bit of inside gossip from KG, obviously, as to the goings-on there in Timberwolf land. And it makes a bit of sense. Because I'll tell you what, I've got an Outback Takehouse that I'm just going to throw at you after I talk about it with James Harden. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do some Unpopular Opinion of the day about Outback Takehouse as well, just saying. Let's do it. All right. But before we do anything else, should we do it? Let's rank the most fun teams to watch. Oh, yeah. These are the fun teams. Woo. Basically, I just wanted to go, like, I've watched a horribly large amount of basketball in the last month and a bit. Basically, a month and a half of, not even that really. It's like 5 weeks of the NBA being back, right? And I'll tell you what. I've watched some bad basketball. I've watched some fun basketball. And I was like, hang on a second. If I have like a day like yesterday where we have 14 games and I'm looking at the NBA League passing and I'm like, oh, God. And I was explaining this, I think, to producer Gerald and the stats boy. And I'm like, hang on. I had the 4-view multi-view on the TV. I had the Foxtel on the iPad. I'm like, that's only 5. There's 8 games going. I'm just flat out missing 3 of them. Bloody hell. So, I'm like, wait. I'd have to like strategically approach this and go, if I care more about X team than this team, then they go up the rankings, don't they? And I'm like, wait a minute, I'll just do all 30 teams like that on tomorrow's show. So, at number 30, the worst team in the NBA, and by far, if you watch this team, you're just like, what am I doing? Like, there is a moment when you're watching this team and you're like, jeez, I'd rather gouge my bloody eyes out than keep watching this. And I keep telling, yes, good job, you're playing the kids. At the same time, it's bloody rough watching them play the kids. It's the Washington Wizards. They're just, I mean, it's horrible. There's no other way to put it.
This is horrible. There's no other way to put it.
And at number 29, just ahead of them, is the team that's basically rolling out, well, that's right, Alfred Payton in the year 2024, the New Orleans Pelicans. There was a moment there when they were healthy for about 2 seconds, and then they weren't. DeJounte Murray breaks his hand, and it's all over, basically. And then just goes into this crazy injury avalanche, and they've been absolutely unwatchable. The problem is they're also watching Dyson Daniels carve it up for the Atlanta Hawks going, geez, did we just completely screw the pooch here? The answer is yes. Yes, you did. But they've been so bad, but that's because I think at one point I pointed out they didn't have 6 of their 7 best players playing. It's just been absolutely brutal. And at the best of times, Brandon Spindles Ingram is not a really fun NBA player to watch. Sometimes he has these moments, you're like, this is good. Outside of that, it's pretty bloody much of a punish. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of punishes, watching the 28 Utah Jazz. I love the Jazz. I hate their uniforms. I mean, I love the purple uniforms. They're great. I love that they got Patty Mills. I hate that they're not playing Patty Mills, and they are also an absolute train wreck to watch on the floor because Larry Markkinen keeps getting hurt. They don't know how to play Keontae George, Colin the Sexman Sexton, and Jordan Jeremy Clarkson in any sort of cohesive manner that gives them a shot at winning some games. They don't want to win games. We get that. But it is also, wow, it's bad to watch them. Like Cody Williams has already been sent to the G League. He's the highest drafted player, I think, so far this season to go to the G League straight away. But they've been bad. Utah, yeesh. Next up, let's do it. Are you ready for this one? 27, the Philadelphia 76ers. Oh, jeez, Jim, it's just because they lose. Yeah, it's also not fun. Like, Jared McCain's fun. Tyrese Maxey's fun. But wow, is it not fun watching this team get their heads kicked in. Right? It's been absolutely a brutal watch. And there's the 2 teams right above them as well, where I'm like, another couple of teams in the East where you're just like, this sucks. And that's Miami. Tyler, there goes my hero. Jimmy Butler and Bam. It should be a little bit more fun than it is. And then you watch them and you're like, this is just, not great. It's just not great. I just don't like this. And the same sort of thing goes for Toronto. If you watched a bit of Toronto, you'll have these incredible RJ Barrett games. But RJ Barrett is one of those, I'll use this very loosely, stars in the NBA where you watch them and you're like, I am inspired to 0 degrees by RJ Barrett. 0 degrees. He seems like a lovely dude, a lovely Canadian. Perfect for Canada. Perfect for the Raptors. But nothing about his game moves me. Teenage Mutant Yucca Purtle. Sometimes, like Scoob, Scotty Barnes, sometimes the shit that he does, you're like, that was fucking nuts, and I'm kind of here for it. But RJ Barrett is your best dude. Like, they haven't had, like, all their dudes healthy as well, and that's been the big problem for Toronto, and that's what makes them so unwatchable, but it's just like, it's a punish. So Philly, Miami, Toronto. You watch those three teams, you're like, every time you're like watching it, like, this is just a slog. The only good thing going for Philly is that you can kind of hate watch them and go, wow, this is pretty fun watching them get their heads kicked in. And then Joel Embiid comes back and you're like, fucking hell, it is not what, like, how is it not fun watching a dude get 35 and 11? And Joel Embiid's like, let me show you. It's fucked. 24, the LA Clippers. Oh, but Jim, Norm Powell's going off. I don't care. They are. And like, at Intuit, that's kind of fun. Intuit Dome is fun. When they're at home, it's good. They have these fun games. And then you're like, wait a minute, this is James Harden racking up 43 points on a Washington team that quit in the first quarter. What the hell are we doing here? James Harden, and I'll talk about this later, is like just, he's not fun to watch. It sucks. And the Clippers are just, they sort of lack that extra oomph when you're watching them. Where you're like, oh, that's Norm Powell. Great. There's James Harden. Oh, God. If Kawhi was playing, they probably go up a little bit more because he just raises their ceiling of what the fuck was that? But at the moment, it's like, ugh, what the fuck is that? You know? Number 23, Portland. They have these moments where they're good, and then they'll just have games where they're completely unwatchable. So you're trying to balance this out. The reason they're above the teams like the Clippers, the Raps, etc., is because some of their young dudes go absolutely fucking spare. And Shaden Sharp basically alone makes me go, fuck, Portland's playing. I might watch that just for a little bit and just see some Shaden Sharp just go absolutely hammering donks. They've also got, you know, do-up, bop, do-up Reef, the great Barrier Reef himself. But outside of that, Anthony Penny Simon, Scoot, etc., there's some moments where they're fun. There's some other ones where it's abysmal. 22, Milwaukee. That's right. This has been a slog of a team to watch this year. They have finally gotten their actual team back on track, and Dame goes off the other day against the Heaters. That was pretty fun. But the fact that Dame and Giannis can't get their game singing at the same sort of time cohesively and in a way that makes you just fucking appreciate basketball is a basketballing travesty. I hate it. Sometimes they have like these moments where you're like, that's it, do that way more, and then they won't do it again, and you're like, fucking goddamn. Like watching Dame by himself the other day against the Heat was awesome. I'm like, this is Dame time. I'm tapping my wrist. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker. Sometimes watching Giannis just go off, you're like, this is pretty gnarly. And then he just won't do anything in the fourth quarter. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? Anyway, Milwaukee, it is Algonquin for the good land, apparently. Well, apparently, maybe it's not, but still. They're not that much fun. 21, Minnesota. This might be the most disappointing team this season, right? They are an absolute train wreck. You've now got Ant-Man calling out his teammates, go, well, you're acting like bloody babies. Pull your bloody heads in. What are you doing? And they're currently in 10th in the West at 12th. They're 8-10. 12th in the West, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I was banking on this team absolutely crushing it and flying over their over as a bit of a, I'm going to back Ant-Man to take a leap. He's just gone exactly from here, if you're watching the YouTube, to here. I did not move my hand. His game hasn't really improved. It's just like, it has improved. He's shooting a fuck ton more threes, and he's hitting more of them. Outside of that, it's just a bit of a, okay, what now, Ant-Man? You watch SGA, and there's so many more ways that he impacts the game. And you watch Ant-Man, and you're like, that's good that you're doing the scoring thing and that you're very loud and very, 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 very hyper. But we need to see more of these game-changing moments from Ant-Man, right? Right? Come on. 20, Brooklyn. They were way lower on this list, but then this last week happened, and they've been fucking awesome. Like, that Suns game was sick. The Warriors game was gnarly. The Kings game was bananas. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but Dennis Schroeder is electric. And you just go, sometimes, fuck it, Dennis Schroeder, bring us home. And he's like, I'm German the Rondo, okay. And away he goes. Ben Simmons is playing the best basketball of his Nets career as of yesterday. They're kind of fun. They're kind of weird. They're kind of janky, and they just play weird, janky games. 19, Memphis. Talk about teams that just have grit and grind built into their character, into their spirit, into their nuts and guts. Taylor Jenkins has this team playing fucking as hard as shit, night in, night out. Ja Morant comes in, then he's back out again after he returns from his injury. Triple J is playing really, really well. Desmond Bain is playing like dog shit. But whenever you watch Memphis, you're just like, God, this team knows how to play together. It doesn't matter who the fuck is on the floor. They play really, 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 really well together. They're not spectacular, though. They have these moments where it's like, that's cool. Once we have Ja back and singing, these guys are going to rocket up this list. 18, Phoenix. Same sort of thing. Without KD, without Beal, without Booker, when they have those three dudes playing, they're kind of more fun to watch. But even with those three dudes, they're not exactly just fucking jaw-dropping, oh, look at this. This is awesome fun. Phoenix Suns basketball up and back. Nah. It's still a bit of a fucking grind. And that's kind of the dude that Brad Beal is. It's kind of the dude that KD is now because he's fucking 36. So they're not crazy fun. But give them a bit of health and they might rise up here. 17, Indy. This is, talk about disappointing teams. They've at least turned it around the last week. They've won their last 3 on the trot. Tyrese Halliburton's playing pretty well again. They're 9 and 10. But last year, they were can't miss basketball. This year, it's is Halliburton going to go shoot fucking 4-13 again? I don't want to do that. And because they've got a couple of injuries, Benny Mathurin is pretty fun. They've got Johnny Furphy rolling out there. But because of their injuries, they don't just have the whirring death machine offense that we kind of expect, and their defense has fallen off a cliff. 16, Atlanta! Almost by virtue of Dyson Daniels. Jalen Johnson's pretty fun as well. But outside of that, Atlanta, when they just, Atlanta come out of nowhere and they go, who the fuck are you? And the other team's like, we're a good team in the East. And Atlanta's like, all right, we're going to beat you. Cavs, Boston, Knicks, doesn't matter. Atlanta doesn't give a fuck. And then Atlanta go, who are you? And Washington's like, blah, 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 we're Washington. And you're like, and then they lose to them. It's amazing. Atlanta are just ridiculous. It does make their games kind of fun to watch. And those blue, beautiful jerseys. Oh, sign me up. 15, San Antonio. Because Stephon Castle and Wemby are basically becoming, they should be higher. But Wemby hasn't been that much fun to watch this year. It's like, hey, you want to watch a 7'70" dude take fucking threes? And you're like, no, I'm not really. And then in the last week or so, the defense has ratcheted up a notch. He's blocking the shit out of some shots again. And you're like, hang on. And Stephon Castle's coming on leaps and bounds. So they've bumped up to 15. I had them around that sort of early 20s. This is a rolling list. This is how much of a fucking dork I am. Jim, have you got your watchable teams list in the list? Yes. Shush. Anyway, San Antonio at 15. Stephon Castle's awesome. They get Devin Vassell back. Chris Paul is taking Stephon Castle, he makes him wear his backpack, comes into work at the Chris Paul Academy for point guarding. It's pretty good. 14, Dallas. Because randomly, they've actually been way more fun to watch with just Kyrie and no Luka this week. It's like, hey, here's Kyrie and a bunch of big wings. And you're like, this is actually pretty fucking fun. And then it's like, hey, here's Luka and Kyrie. And you're like, oh, this is 48 minutes of, 2.5 hours of Luka fucking sooking. Ugh. And taking weird, janky step-back threes that break the offense. You're like, that's not as much fun. So they're a middling 14. 13, Sacramento, because you never know what you're going to get. They're fucking, talk about chaos machines. DeMar came back. You've got Fox. You got Monk. He came back as well. You got the Souvlaki King, Domantas Sabonis. Sometimes they look like they could beat anybody, and other times they're like, check this out. I'm just going to shit down my pants. And you're like, oh, that's Sacramento. Number 12, Chicago. How are they higher than some of these teams, Jim? Because just tune into a Chicago game. If you want another example of you never know what you're going to get, but also no defense, which is definitely what you're always going to get with Chicago, tune in. Giddey be slinging passes. Patch Williams, now that he's injured, it's a bit of a shame because he's just run around like a chook with its head cut off. You got Vooch, you got Levine. Lonzo comes back this weekend. Let's go. This team makes no sense. You got Kobe White and his amazing hair. They are fun to watch because it's just fucking insanity and they play zero defense. You're like, sure, let's go. 144, 128 shootouts. Sign me up. Then you got the LA Lakers at 11. Oh, but Jim, it's LeBron. Yeah. It's LeBron and AD. And what else is it, Jim? Yeah, not much, is it? It's Dalton Connect. It's Austin Reeves. It's Rui Hachimura. And probably my most hated bloody player in the NBA, D-Lo. But it is very similar in the way that it's like, watching a train wreck in slow motion. You're like, oh, this is pretty fun. Check this out. I'd avoided the wreck. Or it's crashed dramatically. It's crazy. It's like why people go to NASCAR. Like the same sort of shit. It's like, oh, almost crashed. Wow, that was fast. Like, it's kind of fun. It's chaos. Anthony Davis is playing the best ball of his career, basically. Anyway, good job by the Lakers. They're 11. Number 10, Denver. They were lower, and then Jokic came back. And you're like, oh, suddenly I like watching this team again. It fucking sucked without him. So Denver at 10. He just makes everything sing, doesn't he? He's throwing behind his head passes. He's scoring 19 points in a quarter. With Jokic, they're appointment viewing. Without him, you're like, oh, burn Denver and the fucking stupid altitude to the ground. Number 9, Orlando. They would be higher with Paolo. They were one of the highest. They were top 5, I think, when we first did these rankings. Orlando are awesome with Franz Wagner. They do lack that absolute just fucking knockout punch with Paolo, though, to be super duper fun. At the moment, they're really fun. Franz Wagner, you got Goga lighting up a fucking entire... Goga light up entirety of Georgia, yes. It's very good. I love Orlando. Number 8, the Detroit Basketball Pistons. What? How are Detroit up in 8, Jim? Because all they do is play crazy, stupid, awesome, close games. Simple as that. I love it. They really do. Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham going out sucks, though. Just like he gets injured and you're like, this is brutal. Number 7... the reigning champion Boston Celtics. Oh, geez, Jim, it's a bit harsh. Yeah, they're not, like, the games that they play, they do tend to play a little bit down to their opposition every so often. You'll get, like, a weird, janky Boston Celtics performance here and there. And then you'll get one where they just kick the flying fuck out of the Clippers. And you're like, yeah, that checks out because the Clippers are shitheads and fuck off. But that Wolves game, like, they just hold them off. They beat the piss out of the Wizards. They played that awesome Cavs game, though. Like, their games are... topsy-turvy roller coasters of like, that was fun. And then sometimes I'll have ones where it's like, oh, they're just going to hit 22 threes today and you can just click over. And yeah, it doesn't matter. They hit 12 threes in a quarter the other day. So if you like watching people shoot threes, but now they got the zinger back. That's right, the extreme zinger meal.
Extreme zinger meal.
That's good because it makes them look a bit weirder and a bit funkier, and I'm kind of here for it. So they're at 7. They could be up a little bit higher because they could just turn into a whirring death machine again, but there you go. I love me some Boston. Golden State, every time you see them on the league pass, you're like, Steph, don't care. Draymond might kill a guy on the court. I'm going to watch. It's kind of fun. But more importantly to me, I think watching Golden State is watching like the development of like dudes like Cumdog Millionaire, Johnny Kuminga, the likes of Moses Moody, Podemski, and you're like, yeah, this team is just pretty well coached. They do lots of fun shit, and they're kind of fun always, right? Like, their defense is pretty gnarly. You've now got Buddy Hield, who was a Splash cousin, and I think he's now a Splash stepbrother. Did we just become best friends? And Steph Curry's like, I don't know who the fuck you are, man. Just piss off. But Buddy Hield just like, oh, check this out. I know how to shoot again, and I'm awesome. And you're like, all right, good on you, buddy. There's 6. Number 5. Oh, my God. He got with the guts of a cat burger. It's the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo and Spindles Miller, as I said the other day, they're shooting over 22 threes a game. The most Steph and Clay ever shot together was 22 a game. They are beating that. That is amazing. LaMelo's doing crazy shit game in, game out. He'll drop 17 in a quarter, take these stupid step-back one-legged threes and knock them down. It's chaos. Every Charlotte game has like at least 2 or 3 moments where you're like, what the fuck just happened? And it's awesome. That's why they're number 5. 4, OKC, they were higher when they had Chet because Chet just makes shit weird and he's just massive and fucking strange looking. But even without Chet, you see OKC on your league pass and you're like, fuck yeah. SGA and J-Dub, let's do it. And now they've got Hartenstein. You're like, this just fucking looks beautiful. They're really fun to watch because they're like just this sort of weird classic, we've just got a bunch of dudes kind of teams. Like, here's Case and Wallace. Here's Isaiah Joe. And you're like, Andrew, is that Andrew Wiggins? Like, no, we've got the shit one. And he knocks in 3 threes. And you're like, what the fuck is going on in this game? It's awesome. Dort flying around, causing all sorts of havoc and like missing every shot that he takes. It's nuts, and I love them. Thank you, OKC. Number 3, oh yes.
Cleveland!
I love watching Cleveland because Mobley is absolute chaos. My sweet baby Karis LeVert, coached by Kenny Atkinson. Go the throw, Jared Allen. Donnie Mitchell can just turn around and drop 38 on your head. You got the minivan, the G-Wagon, not the G-Spot, just saying. George Niang, they're wicked. They don't lose. They're 17-2. Cleveland are radical. Way to go, Cleveland. They're very fun to watch.
Cleveland!
Number 2, the New York Knickerbockers of New York City. What? That's right. The New York Knickerbockers, I just don't know. Oh, Lord.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
But they are fun. They are very fun. You got Brunson causing all sorts of havoc. You got Cat playing the best basketball of his entire career. You've got a bit of awesome, like Mikal Bridges taking a million step-back jumpers and going, every Brooklyn Nets fan going, ha, ha, ha. Can't believe you gave us 5 first for this guy. And then also Josh Hart causing all sorts of havoc. Tibbs doing all sorts. But the Knicks are fun because they've got no other dudes. They have their 8-man rotation, and then Tibbs is like, I'm not going to play anybody else. And you're like, sure. And then the flip side, number 1, the Houston Rockets. Seriously, they're fucking incredible. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet, like, they're so, like, awesome to watch because Fred VanVleet will just hit, like, the biggest shot of the fucking game, and he'll be, like, 2 or 13 before that. Jalen Green will do the same sort of thing. You've got Dylan Brooks, who's going to karate chop somebody in the head. You know that he's going to do it. You got Jabari Smith. You got LP Şengün. Şengün plays such a weird, bizarre, like, style of basketball that it's like him and Suvlaki King. We're like, you know, and Jokic. It's like they're kind of like weird shadows of the Joker. But Houston are awesome because then they can whip out the Terror Twins, Tari Eason and Amen Thompson. And you're like, this is great. Like, they're just flying around causing all. And then Reed Shepherd comes in off the bench and go, hello, I was the number 3 pick this year. And you're like, okay, Reed, do what you want. And then they got 2 Aussies. They got Rock and Sock and Block and Jock and Landale and the Unabomber, Jack McVeigh. I love it. Houston are the most fun team, basically. The biggest problem is they play in that sort of weird, super fucking red environment. You're like, it's just a bit shit to watch. But they're a fucking fun team. And there you go. The Rockets, top. The most fun teams to watch right now, rankings a quarter of the way through this season. All right. With that in mind, Grant Hill drinks Sprite.
Man, that's Grant Hill. Grant Hill drinks Sprite? Grant Hill drinks Sprite.
That's right. Grant Hill drinks Sprite. Let's do some quarterway awards. Quarter mark of the season is basically upon us. We're going to, like most teams will hit like that sort of 20 game mark over this weekend. Like you've got teams like Boston at 15-3. So they've played their 18. You'll have the Nets have played 19 already. They play again tomorrow. So they're like, you've got a bunch of teams hitting that 20 game mark. MVP, I'm pretty sure it's Jokic. So for the simple idea, you saw them play with him and you're like, that's great. And you saw them play without him. You're like, oh, they're the worst team in the NBA, including the Wizards. So I'm just like, it's Joker. Like, he's the most valuable player in the NBA because you take him away, that team is fucked. Like, you take SGA off OKC and they're probably fucked. You take Tatum from Boston, they're kind of fucked, but they're not that fucked. You take Donnie Mitchell away from the Cavs, they're a little bit fucked. You take Anthony Davis away from the Lakers, and they're actually probably fucked. So, that's kind of why I've got AD at number 2 in my MVP ranks right now, because despite the Lakers not being that much chop and being a little bit shit, he is incredibly valuable to everything they do. LeBron's on-off numbers at the moment are a little bit worrisome. He's turning the ball over at like a pretty crazy rate. Anthony Davis is holding that Lakers team together. It's nuts. He's number 2. Number 3, I've got SGA because he makes everything work there in OKC. Same sort of thing goes for Tatum in Boston. He's playing awesome. They're unreal. And then Donnie Mitchell. He's the straw that stirs the drink there in Cleveland. The thing is, I think Tatum and Donnie are both hurt by the simple fact that their teams are really fucking good and kind of almost don't need them as much. So their actual MVP chances are much lower. But anyway, Jokic, AD, SGA, Tatum, and Donnie at the moment. Rookie of the Year! Let's give that to Jared McCain ahead of Stephon Castle and Dalton Connect. Castle has basically got like one more week before he jumps Jared McCain for me. McCain has been fantastic. Castle has been unreal the last couple of weeks. And then I've got Dalton Connect at 3 because same sort of thing. It's like the rookies have sort of found their like footing after about a month or so in the NBA. and they're hitting shots. It's great. Castle's unreal. Connector's really, really good. But McCain, at the moment, he's like just the leader in the clubhouse because he's been really awesome. And look out now, that is Zachary Rissacher's music. Oh, he's been very handy as well for the Hawks, but not top 3. Coach of the year at the moment for me is Kenny Atkinson. Hooray! I love Kenny. Ime Udoka at number 2 and Jamal Mosley at 3. Ime Udoka's got that Rockets team absolutely singing. As I mentioned, they're playing so many dudes. Like, I didn't even say Cam Whitmore's name. Like, that's how good they are. Mosley, he's got that Magic team turned around without Palabankara and playing awesome. So he's number 3. But Kenny, they didn't lose a game for like a month. Like, that's just nuts. 6th man of the year. Pritch better have my money. Pritch, please. That's right. Peyton Pritchard. He's the 6th man of the year at the moment. He's crushing it. Ahead of Buddy Hield and Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome's crushing it as well for the Cavs. That's right. Most improved player. That's right. Dyson Daniels. Oh, an Aussie Jim. Yeah, guess what? He's also Defensive Player of the Year in my book. But the rest of the most improved players, probably J-Dub. He's been absolutely unreal with Chet out. And then ahead of Franz Wagner, who, like, I don't know if Franz Wagner's improved more than, like, J-Dub. They're probably pretty similar where they've, like, just had, with an injury on their team, they've had their roles sort of changed a little bit. And they've risen to the occasion, expanded their game a little bit, which is really good. Whereas Dyson Daniels has gone from fucking 7 minutes a game in New Orleans to Defensive Player of the Year, and no one wants to fucking play the dude. Like, anytime you go from 7 minutes a game 1 year and then fucking Michael Jordan comparisons the next, you're my most improved player. And the same thing goes to Defensive Player of the Year. Talk about deflections, talk about steals. Basically, the most feared dude in the NBA. If you're a guard in the NBA, you're looking at this schedule going, cool, fuck, Atlanta, I don't want to play Dyson. Have you seen his arms? They're massive. And the same, like, Wemby's at number 2 for me, and Mobley is at number 3, because Wemby is sort of basically backstopping everything for San Antonio, but he can cover out as well. Rudy can go get fucked because he's annoying me, but Mobley, he's been really solid for the Cavs. And there you go. It's pretty good. So there you go. Dyson Daniels, most improved player and Defensive Player of the Year, because he's leading the NBA in steals. He's absolutely crushing it. And I love him. Friend of the program. But yeah, he's also, at the moment, he's averaging still an absolutely stupid, jaw-droppingly awesome runner stats, where I think if you look at just the sheer steals alone, it's at 3.1, which is almost a full steal ahead of next in line, which is J-Dub. But he's getting a block a game as well. And he's just absolutely shredding with the deflections. The tracking. It does him like almost an injustice without having all those numbers everywhere. Right, let's do some quick yeah-nahs right after, let's say, this one. This one.
This is Cam Glidden. This is Anthony Drimmick.
This is Mitch McCarron.
This is Jason Kadee.
This is Darryl McDonald.
Hey guys, this is Hugh Greenwood.
Yo, what's going on? This is Illy.
This is Mark Worthington, or commonly known as Wortho, and you're listening to NBA Australia.
You listen to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA
And you're
Australia.
listening to NBA Australia.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
And you're listening to NBA Australia.
You're listening to NBA Australia.
All right, let's do some yeah-nahs. Number 1. I think we soft as hell as a team internally. Not to the other team, but internally, we soft. We can't talk to each other, just a bunch of little kids. Is Anthony Edwards right about his own Minnesota Timberwolves? Yeah, nah, yeah. I mean, they are soft. Have you watched them play? Like, the way that Sacramento just ran over the top of them the other day, the way that Houston outworked them and ran over the top of them, that's a soft team. They weren't a soft team last year. Like, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, that's not meant to make you soft. They've come from the Tibbs bloody factory of, like, hard workers and rolled into Timberwolf territory and just gone, oh, yeah, nah, it's a bit shit, eh? It's chaos. So I think the most striking thing is that the Wolves are 13th in defensive rating so far this season. They're giving up 111.4 points a game. They gave up 106.5 last year. That's insane. It's basically a 5-point difference per game. You lose Karl Anthony Towns, you get a couple of other dudes in place, and geez. Like, slow-mo Kyle Anderson was not that important, I feel like. But wow. The Wolves are soft. Good one from my outgoing boss. Was the process a 14-year social media odyssey to draft Cooper Flagg? Yeah, nah. The funniest thing in the world would be if the Sixers just end up with like a half-decent draft pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just be really, really, really funny. So, at the moment, you got the Sixers. With Cooper Flagg, you got the Wiz, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey goes to the Raptors, whatever. But the Sixers somehow landing Cooper Flagg just because they go, fuck it, we've had a shit year. We're already too far behind the 8 ball. Let's completely tank, bottom out. Off we go. Boom. You go get fucking Cooper Flagg. That'd be the funniest outcome ever. The process works, baby. It's like maybe the process is just being shit every so often. There you go. And then finally, this was brought up this week. Should we abolish conferences when we expand? Yeah, nah. I mean, if you're a Western team, you're like, yes, we should abolish conferences because we should seed the playoffs 1 through 16 and away we go. Or 1 through 20 and still do the play-ins. Everyone in the East is like, no, we shouldn't abolish conferences because we want to kick the fuck out of the shit teams here in the East. Right? I love that. Everyone in the East is like, no. Do you know how easy we have it? Like, Boston is like, dude. And I think you need like a 2/3 majority to overturn this. No one in the East is voting yes to abolish conferences. They're like, fuck that. We want our cozy little East top 8, and then we'll go from there. It's very, very handy. For the simple fact, I mean, you look at it as it stands right now, and I kind of keep bringing this up. Like, Minnesota were 12th, right? They're 8 and 10, so they're out of even the play-in. 8 and 10 would have you in the 7 spot in the East at the moment. It's chaos. Like the 10-seeded San Antonio Spurs are 10 and 9. They would be like the 5 seed in the East right now. So that's how bad the East is compared to the West. The East is never voting for conference realignment or just like abolishing conferences. But the other sort of unpopular opinion of the day, I guess, like,
now look at me, please. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
I kind of like conferences. I like East versus West. I like rivalries that you can build. I feel like we should be putting more into like the division rivalries and shit like that, because the more you play a specific team, the more you end up fucking hating them. And I kind of like that. And I feel like the NBA should be leaning into that more. It's a bit weird, but either way, we're never going to chop down the fucking schedule, but we should. I do like conferences. I think, though, if we bring in Seattle, thank fuck, I'm wearing my Seattle Supersonics hat as per usual. Long-suffering Supersonics believer. And so say you bring in the Sonics in Vegas, so you got to move a couple of teams to the East. And everyone's like, oh, yep, cool. I think, like, you've got, Memphis, Minnesota, stuff like that, where it's like, if you look at how many teams in the East are really quite within pissing distance of the next team, I think those are the two that are kind of the closest, aren't they? Let's bring up a map, and we'll have a look of the US of A and where the teams are. I'm pretty sure it's like New Orleans is obviously pretty close as well to... Yeah, New Orleans and Memphis, if you just like drew a straight line, just like a little bit west of Chicago. But you've already got like Milwaukee and shit right there too. And so I reckon you'd probably say Memphis because it's closer to a bunch of those other East teams. And then I think Minnesota is within, like in terms of flights, it's like further away from a bunch of the other West teams than is the East. So I think we keep the conferences. What are we doing? And then finally, a bit of Outback Takehouse. It's Friday at Outback, and you know what that means? Oh yeah, 4-for-1 TGIF Icy Cold Foster's Lager. That's right, you can drink it in Australia again now because apparently it's back. Don't know why you'd bother, because it tastes like horse piss, but it's still Aussie for beer, apparently, and it's only at Outback. And today's flame grilled take is Houston should be kicking the tires on absolutely everything to go and trade for Anthony Edwards. If you've got too many dudes, doesn't matter if you ship them all off to Minnesota and Ant-Man is like, I hate everybody here. Fuck this. Fuck you. Screw you. I'm out. Fuck all y'all. Houston should be just like, hello, Ant-Man. Hello. And then they should go and pair him up with Giannis and away they go. Go win a bunch of titles. Come on, Houston. I believe. I was also going to do a little bit of Harden stuff because James Harden went by Ray Allen the other day. So it's like for the all-time second spot on the three-pointers list. So maybe we'll do a quick Shane Hill shoot your shot, light 'em up award. Should we do that? I think we should.
He threw it down. Are you healed? Are you healed? Praise the Lord, I'm healed.
Praise the Lord, for I'm healed. It is the Shane Hill
Shooters shoot.
Shoot your shot, light 'em up award. Second all time on the NBA's three-pointers list. Very cool. He's obviously probably not going to catch Steph because they're contemporaries. But it got me thinking about James Harden just like all time and how I don't feel like we're going to have a guy with such amazingly massive high career accolades who means less. You know what I mean? So he's won an MVP. He's never won a title. He's bounced around. He's put up massive numbers. And he doesn't matter. Like, he's got a beard. Oh, geez, Jim. Are you big fans of beards, are you, Jim? Yeah. But for me, he's like the Joe Johnson of all-time superstars. Like, no one fucking cares. It's the same as like Paul George. It's like, you haven't won shit. You've not really achieved much as like the best dude on a team. It's like, oh, I made a Western Conference Finals. Yeah. The last time you were in a finals, James Harden, was like 2011 with this like OKC team that had Russell Westbrook and fucking Kevin Durant on it, and you were like the sixth man. Settle down, right? It's like his career, it's like a really amazingly overachieving Blake Griffin. Like that sort of thing. Where it's like, oh yeah, people love him. He put up great numbers. And it's like, yeah, and he didn't mean much. T-Mac. Grant Hill. Russell Westbrook. It's weird, right? It's just a bit weird. But is there another super duper star who's going to have all these records and is it like put up massive, massive numbers, won an MVP that matters less? Let me know what you reckon. All right, let's take a very quick break and be back with the NBA Cup check-in. That's right, we're going to go through and see what everyone's been up to and where it all stands before tomorrow's games and the big weekend preview right after Hammer.
This is Shane Hill, and you're listening to NBA STRAYA.
All right, let's do it. Oh, yeah. Should we do a quick Patty Mills Game Day, Baller Game Day Twitter check-in? I think, who did some good stuff before? There's Giddy. What's he doing? Oh, great Thanksgiving fit, Patty Twig. Oh, he's just having a pretty good party. That's nice. Good on you, Josh Giddy, having a nice Thanksgiving. All right. The NBA Cup. We're back on tomorrow. Where are we all standing? So in East Group A, we've got the Magic, the Knicks, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Hornets. The Magic lead that group 2-0. They haven't played an NBA Cup game for 2 weeks. The Knicks are 2-0. So basically everyone else is cooked. East Group B, the Bucks, amazingly enough, are 3-0. The Pistons are 2-0. So they have a huge weekend ahead, the Pistons. They play Indy tomorrow, which is very important. The Pacers are 0-2 already. They made it through to the final, remember, last year? And here we are. Outside of that, we've actually got a couple of teams that have been knocked out. And Toronto is one of them in that group right there. So the Bucks are leading that one, but the Pistons are right there. The Pistons in their group have beaten Miami, beaten Toronto. They now play tomorrow at Indy, and then they host Milwaukee. So that actually probably could decide it if Detroit win tomorrow against Indy. The East Group C, this is just a chaos one because Chicago, the Hawks, and Boston are all 2-1 in East Group C of the NBA Cup. Cleveland's 1-1. Having already lost to Boston, though. So they've only played the 2, so they could beat Atlanta and beat Washington and still probably fall short against Boston. So, and Washington have been eliminated. Go out west, you've got Houston, who have already clinched Group A ahead of the Rockets. They're 3-0. And then behind them, it's the Clippers, the Blazers, the Wolves, and the Kings, who are all basically Dunskies in terms of the wild card. Maybe not so much the Clippers. They've still got 2 more games, but it's going to take a lot to catch like the other ones out west. And then West Group B, the Suns are leading that one tied with the Lakers and the Spurs. They're all 2-1. The Jazz have been eliminated. The Oklahoma City Thunder play the Lakers tomorrow in a West Group B shaping game, which would be pretty massive. And then West Group C, the Warriors have clinched that group as well. The Mavs can still make the wild card, though. They've got a game against Memphis. That'll be their last one for the NBA Cup. Denver's 1-2. The Pelicans have already been eliminated, and Memphis are 0-2 as well. So it's all set up pretty interestingly, but at the moment, it's obviously the Warriors have gotten through to Group C. The Rockets have gotten through West Group A. So Group B, with the Suns, the Lakers, and the Spurs and Oklahoma City, fascinating. That all basically hinges on the Lakers OKC game tomorrow. And out east, I mean, yeah, with the Bucks at 3-0, the Pistons 2-0, the Magic and Knicks 2-0, and the Bulls, Hawks, and Celtics and Cavs, it's all chaos in the east. So let's do some picks for tomorrow's games in the NBA Cup. That sounds like a good idea, Jim. Yeah, sick. I did a quick walk and talk this morning after, a bit of drop-off. The Hornets are 12.5-point underdogs at home against the Knicks. I'm taking Charlotte because they're pretty good at home. They can score with anybody. If they hit a million threes, they can hang. And the Knicks just keep dropping these stupid games every so often and just look horrible. They got smashed by the Mavs. They'll probably turn around and win this, but let's go Charlotte just to keep that close. Plus 12.5. Knicks win it. Cleveland take on Atlanta again in a massive shaping NBA Cup game. And as I've said before, because these are NBA Cup games, the way that you sort of feel about a specific team in a game, the way the lines are set up, you kind of almost have to go to an extreme because these teams play to the wire. So the Knicks, if you like the Knicks, minus 12.5. Yeah, you're laughing because if they really want to put the foot down and just stomp on the necks of the Charlotte Hornets, it's now making me rethink my pick because the Knicks are 2-0 in that group, right? So they're 23 points down in point differential. So you know they'll be fired up to try and absolutely smash them array, this Hornets team. It's already a minus 26 in their point differential. I just think Charlotte at home, maybe they're a bit of a chance. Maybe not. Should we swing that bomb back around? I might have just talked myself out of that. Let's go Knicks minus 12.5. That's right. Motivation, baby. How good is that? Atlanta hosting Cleveland. As I've said, though, Atlanta play up to their opposition. They are 6.5-point underdogs tomorrow. Atlanta are still a chance in the NBA Cup as well. So they're 2-1 in East Group C. We're going to go Atlanta plus 6.5 at home. Not bad. They play up to their opposition. We're going to go the Hawks. New Orleans playing Memphis. Both the Pelicans, they're 1-2. The Grizzlies are 0-2. The Pelicans already been eliminated from this one. The Grizz, 10.5-point favorites. It just seems like a lot, right? Despite the Pelicans being so bad, they still have DeJounte and CJ McCollum. I'm going to go New Orleans plus 10.5 against the Grizzlies. If Ja Morant is back, maybe you'd sort of go with the Grizz. But because they're 0-2 in this thing, I don't feel like point differential is going to matter so much to the Grizz. So I'm going to go the Pelicans to put up a little bit of a fight. Orlando! Now, this is where it gets interesting. They are 7.5-point favorites against the Brooklyn Nets. This is a fascinating one. Because Orlando, obviously, as mentioned, 2-0 in group play. I'm taking Orlando minus 7.5 because they are going to go absolutely at Brooklyn's neck. The Brooklyn Nets neck. There you go. After the Nets had an awesome West road trip, look out for Orlando to come in to Brooklyn and just smash them. We're going to go the Magic minus 7.5. Because again, what do we just say? NBA Cup. Point differential matters. The Magic are already plus 37. They want to build on that. The Clippers go to Minnesota. Interesting one. Minnesota are 1-2. The Clippers are 1-1. I'm going to vote that the Wolves bounce back after Ant-Man lit a fire under them. They are 5.5-point favorites, amazingly enough, at home against the Clippers. I think Minnesota bounces back in a big way. Rudy Gobert up against Zoobs is always an interesting one. Ant-Man, he's going to have to back up the shit that he's talking. I expect Minnesota to go bang. Indy host Detroit. Now, the Pistons only play close games against good teams. This was a 6.5-point line. I am taking the Detroit basketball Pistons. Even though Indy are good at home, Detroit are 2-0 in this NBA Cup. They play teams tough. They just do. They're going to miss Cade Cunningham. Maybe Cade is back. I haven't actually checked that yet. But the point is, like, Detroit are good-ish. They're good-ish enough to go, right, I'm going to make you think about what's going on. So give me some Cade Cunningham. Is he back? What's going on? Let's have a look. Let's check the internet. Injury report. Cade Cunningham, questionable. Tobias Harris, questionable. So I'm going to stick with Detroit plus 6.5. If Cade plays, yep. If not, I might swing it back to Indy, but we're going to go Detroit for the moment. Miami, they host Toronto. Now, Toronto, as mentioned, are now 1-10 on the road. Haven't gotten a win yesterday. They're already eliminated from this NBA Cup. Miami used to be fighting. I expect Miami to come out and go all guns blazing to get to 2-2 in the NBA Cup. They are 6.5-point favorites, I believe. Yes, I'm going to take the Heat. Toronto, like, are sneakily okay all of a sudden with Scoob back. But I think Miami, if they don't have Jimmy Butler, though, maybe we'll go Toronto plus 6.5. Jimmy Butler with a tight back. Let's go the Raptors. Screw it. Boston, visit Chicago. Talk about teams that need to absolutely put the foot down in the NBA Cup. This would be Boston. They need to smash them a rate. The Bulls. The Bulls are 2-1 in the NBA Cup. So are the Celtics. If they get a big win here, that can bump up their point differential and almost guarantee that they'll get out of the group. So we're going to go Boston minus 10.5. Then we have OKC at the Lakers. The Lakers. This is a 1.5-point line towards the Oklahoma City Thunder. I like the Thunder a lot more than I like the Lakers. We're going to go the Thunder. Especially with Isaiah Hartenstein. So they've got at least a little bit of size to try and combat AD. AD should still have a massive game. But OKC's got them kind of covered everywhere else. I'm going to go the Thunder. And then you got Sacramento at Portland. This is a 3.5-point line in favor of the Kings up in Portland, which is pretty nuts. But not that nuts because Portland aren't very good. So this is a big West Group A matchup, which has already been clinched by the Rockets. So Sacramento 0-2 in the NBA Cup. Portland are 1-1. I expect Sacramento. They looked really good up against Minnesota yesterday. So let's go the Kings minus 3.5 in Portland. And that is the NBA Cup schedule for tomorrow. Sunday, we've got Atlanta at Charlotte. I'm going to take Charlotte in that one head-to-head. I think both teams on a back-to-back. Atlanta having gone from home playing Cleveland. Charlotte having just played the Knicks. I'm going to take Charlotte. Just their shooting and a little bit of chaos. Philly go to Detroit. I'm taking Detroit. Philly are an absolute train wreck. I'm just taking Detroit. It's amazing and I trust them more, but here we are. Milwaukee, they host Washington, who are horrendous. We're taking the Bucks there. Phoenix host Golden State. Now, Phoenix have Brad Beal back. Well, actually, he limped out of that last game, so he might not play this one, but you still got KD and Booker. Steph, they reckon he might be back for this Suns game. The Warriors' defense might be a little bit much for this Phoenix team that'll still be trying to reincorporate, KD, then losing Beal again, maybe. I'm going to take the Warriors on the road in Phoenix. Steve Kerr against, the team that he used to be the GM of. That'll be kind of fun. And then you got Dallas at Utah. We'll go the Mavs because Paul went out for this poor Jazz team. They are bad. And then Monday, we've got a pretty chaotic schedule on Monday. We've got Orlando at Brooklyn again. Orlando stay in New York for like a week. They play Brooklyn back-to-back, and then they play the Knicks in the NBA Cup at the end of next week as well. It's chaos. We're going to go Orlando, back-to-back wins. Memphis host Indy. I like Memphis in that one. Indy on the road, I just do not like because Halliburton plays like dog shit. Boston, they go to Cleveland. I initially had Cleveland in this one, but I think Boston will have just been like, right, we've now got the extreme zinger meal back. And they'll get a bit of eye of the tiger. And I feel like they'll just want to keep pointing out to Cleveland that you can't beat us. It's like, oh, you thought you was Kobe? You thought you was a contender? We're the reigning champs, son. Joey Muzz will be like, hey, Jason, man, I heard Donnie Mitchell talking shit about you, bro. I reckon you can fucking smash this Cavs team again, man. And he'll be like, I'll fucking smash him. Hey, Jason, once you've smashed him, we can go and watch the town together, bro. Boston over Cleveland on Monday. New Orleans go to New York. Just find some actual goddamn, names for your cities, America. New Orleans, New York. What about Old Orleans and Old York? idiots. We're going to take the Knicks at home against the Pelicans. Toronto host Miami in a pretty fun switcheroo. That's a home-and-home series, so this is in Toronto. I like the Raptors at home against Miami. So we've gone Toronto plus 6.5 tomorrow in the NBA Cup. Turn around, I reckon they could win that on Monday against the Heat. Houston host OKC. I'm actually going to go the Rockets. I love the idea of the Rockets up against OKC. They've got all these defensive, chaotic wings. You've got a scoring guard who's not as good as SGA and Jalen Green, but you've got just a lot of guys. You bat deep, I think, on Houston. I reckon they might be a little bit too tough for OKC on this Monday one. Lakers go to Utah. They should win that one. Should. So I'm going to take them. Dallas go to Portland. Now, Dallas will have played in Utah the night before. I reckon Portland might sneak up on Dallas and beat them there. A lot of length, bit of size, but especially, between Shade and Sharp, Anthony, Penny, Simons. It's a bit of scoring there. They could probably hang. San Antonio go to Sacramento. I'm going to take the Kings in that one. Pour one out for Wemby and co. That should be pretty fun, actually. Wemby up against the Souvlaki King. Get him into foul trouble. Look out, might have a bit of a chance. Maybe I'm talking myself into San Antonio. Nah, I still reckon Fox and stuff will carve them up. And then finally, Denver versus the Clippers. And what are the Clippers to Denver? That's right, they're bunny. We're taking Denver. And there you go. That's a big weekend preview. That's 30 teams ranked in terms of how fun. That's the Quartermark Awards. Tell you what, that's a big Friday show for you. So I hope you're had a listen, get stuck into it for your weekend, all the good stuff there. I know I will. Gonna go smash some tins, hang out. All right. In the meantime, get around NBA Australia on Twitter, Facey IG, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff. We're all over the socials all the time. Social man Leo's putting up a bunch of stuff. Get around NFL Australia as well on the same spots. Myself and Gaz chopping up about a crazy NFL week, Thanksgiving week. Pretty crazy over there. Check us a rating review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, whatever app you use on your Android phone, all that weird stuff. Go nuts. Rate, review, star, subscribe, tell a mate, send some links out, whatever you got to do. And get around the Cricket Today show. The boys have got an awesome show out as well. Wrapping up all the Aussie horrible gear up against India and a bunch of other stuff coming up for the second test next week. The Football Today show as well, where they're covering a bunch of soccer. Hold all tickets for your GGs. And the big one, AFLW Today show, because the grand finals this week, and they've got their big grand final preview that came out today. Go check that out. Big thanks always go to From Oslo for the intro and outro song They Rule, and so do House Hatch, Joshua Delarentis, Fascinator, Gold Mines, Ramshackle Army, Iowa, Sex Shadow, Green, and Dozers. They're behind all the tunes you hear throughout the show. Smash them all on Bandcamp, Triple J and Earth, Facey, Apple Music, Spotify. However you listen to your tunes, support Australian bands. I do as well. Speaking of bands, I'm going to be at like a million gigs next week, so I'm going to go to what? Frank Turner next week at the ESPY, 311. And then I'm going to be at Good Things on Friday. So there'll be no Friday show next week. I might do like one in the morning before I go as a quick weekend preview. But there won't be a full rap show or anything on the Friday. Just a heads up, because I'm going to be out in the sunshine, seeing bands, getting shit-faced. Should be good. So if you're around, come say good day. All right, we'll catch you on Monday, you dickheads. Have a great weekend. This is NBA Australia saying, look after yourselves, would ya? And let a Hosanna!
Cooking with Bainesy is filmed in front of a live, socially distanced audience. And now it's time for Cooking with Bainesy, with your host, Aaron Bangers Baines. all right. G'day. It's good to see the smattering of yous here in the studio. This is amazing. It's nice to see you're all wearing your face mask and you're all socially distanced. Oh, that's beautiful, it is. But the best part is this is Cooking with Bainesy, and I'm your host, Aaron Bangers Baines. And look, in this here very special socially distanced episode, I'm going to get you to whip up an absolute treat. That's right, it's one of my all-time Aussie favourites. You can have it whenever. It's probably the best slab of meat you'll ever bloody eat. Because that's right, it's the secret Bangers Brisket Barbie Bonanza, straight out of Texas. You little ripper. Texas, Australia, I'll tell you what. That's right, I love me a big old slab of brisket cooked up on the barbie for about 8 years. Or in this case, about 8 hours. And it's easy as, mate. You might think it's a bit complicated, but there's nothing less complicated than just cooking some meat. And if you really do it properly and get all your sides bang on, it'll help you keep up this physique. You know what I'm talking about. All right, so let's get stuck in. It is bloody simple, mate. All you gotta do is go down to your butcher, ask him for his best bit of brisket. You might have to call ahead or even ask him. Just walk past a few days beforehand, whatever. It's bloody worth it. Get the best brisket you can. Then you duck over to the soupy, get your gear for your spice mix. Now, this is banger spice mix. Brown sugar, paprika, onion, garlic, salt, some mustard, some cumin, and a bit of black pepper. And you're laughing. Get some gear for your sauce. You need some vinegar, some ketchup, or as I call it, tomato sauce, Worcestershire sauce, garlic, and some of those spices. Just toss them in. Go fucking mad. Now, get some sides. Load up with your sides at the soupy. Some green beans, some mac and cheese, a thing of coleslaw, plenty of potatoes to get more whipped than my mate Simo when he was with that Kardashian. There you go. Now, fire up your barbie. Get her up to a nice even 120. Look, you can use charcoal, you can use gas. It doesn't bloody matter. If you're using charcoal, throw in some tasty, wood chips in there for some smoky flavour if you want. I personally don't give a fuck, mate. You can just chuck it on the grill. Just gas, doesn't matter, mate. Just, now, mix your spices together. Mix them all up. There you go. Now rub them in all over your brisket. Now, some people like to cut the fat back. You can just leave it on. Doesn't matter. Just rub it all in nice and even like you're massaging my big mate Bogey's hammy after a big game. Oh, he gets you to do it and it's fucking gross. I'll tell you what. But anyway, let her sit there for a bit if you want after you've rubbed that all in. Nice looking, tasty, big slab of meat. Leave it, half an hour to an hour, whatever. She's right there. Bang her on. Just bang her on the barbie. Close the lid, bit of foil underneath it, and away you go. Let that bastard cook for 8 to 10 hours. Simple. I mean, in the meantime, just keep an eye on the temperature. Crack a slab. Check the internal temperature of the meat every so often. You want it around 75 degrees once she's cooked. Neck a bunch of tins. Watch some footy. Then with about an hour until she's good, get to work on your sides. Whip your potatoes. Cook your greens, your mac and cheese. Dump your coleslaw out. Put it all on some nice little plates so it all looks nice and neat. It'll look special as. Rip the brisket out. Sit there for an hour. Bang. Bob's your bloody uncle. Look at this. I'm just slicing it open. Look at that bloody brisket. That is bloody mouth-watering, that is. Mate, you can put it on sliders or you can just eat it raw dog. It doesn't matter. I'm going to slice this up, put it on a plate. Bob's your bloody Barbie-loving uncle. It is awesome. My friends, this is an absolute bloody ripper of a bangers brisket Barbie bonanza. It is delicious. And it'll dead set impress all your mates and all the Sheilas. Don't you worry about that. All right, so I'm just getting stuck in. This is bloody delicious. Do it at home yourselves. You'll have heaps left over to take to work for lunch, whatever, mate. You will love it. Just look how bloody... Look, I've cooked enough for all of you, so you're going to love it. There you go. All right, tune in next week to NBA STRAYA for a new recipe, and we will see yous then on the next episode of Cooking with Bainesy.